On the oldest maps of Africa, a mighty name is written across the south. An empire, a kingdom, a residence for the emperor, and yet today, most people are unaware that they are living in its ruins. We are told that it's a myth, a mistake, or that it was just a small tribal state in Zimbabwe. But the maps, the landmarks, and the evidence on the ground suggest the opposite. This is the South African story you were never supposed to hear. The legacy, the heritage of the lost empire of Monomotapa. As always, I was looking at the oldest maps of Africa, trying to piece together the fragments of the past. And that's when I saw it. Monomotapa. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. Painted on many different maps over the course of 200 years. We've mentioned Monomotapa on the channel before, but never made the time for an in-depth investigation into its authenticity. So here we are. One of the oldest maps I found comes from a Dutchman, Jan Huygen van Linschoten. In 1596, he published a book that cracked open the world of the Indian Ocean for European readers. In that book, a map. And on that map, southern Africa, covered by the empire of Monomotapa. Cities, settlements, towers, one civilization, coast to coast. 39 years later, in 1635, another map printed by another Dutch cartographer, Willem Blauw. He shows Monomotapa dominating the southern half of the continent, spanning almost 4 million square kilometers, encompassing all of South Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Zambia, and Botswana. One empire, coast to coast. 20 years later, in the year 1656, Nicolas Sanson, the French royal cartographer, produces a map. Once again, the word Monomotapa sprawled across the land. Towns, cities, and one particularly large settlement labeled Monomotapa, looking like a grand capital in today's Gauteng province. Another map, the same story, the same empire. Another French map, the same city, looking like a capital. Here's a map that shows the residence of the emperor alongside the city of Monomotapa. Hints of a bureaucratic past we're told never existed. History tells us that the cartographers were just filling in blank spaces. But how many times does the same name, the same empire, the same city get drawn over 2 centuries before you realize this isn't an accident? And yet, the official narrative and today's historians want us to believe that these are mistakes. They are wrong. So what happened? Where are the remains of this once great civilization in South Africa and its capital in Gauteng? Fast forward roughly 200 years, and to the administrative capital of South Africa, the city of Pretoria. Founded in 1855 by Mr. Pretorius, who was the son of a Voortrekker hero, celebrated for defeating Shaka Zulu's brother at the Battle of Blood River. So where does the name Pretorius come from? Well, the name Pretorius can be traced all the way back to one of the earliest arrivals of Dutch settlers in the Cape of Good Hope. From there, it can even be traced all the way back to Europe and the Netherlands specifically. The oldest, Mr. Johannes Pretorius, was the son of a reverend named Wessel Schulte. The family name Schulte, with its German origins, was used to indicate someone who worked as a town mayor and derived from the medieval name Schulteis, which also has the same meaning. So why did he change his family name? Well, after the fall of the Roman Empire, Europeans were Latinizing their family names in order to make them sound more Roman. I mean, why not? Rome was one of the largest, most admirable empires in history, and after it was gone, everyone wanted a part of its legacy. So Schulte, during his time as a theology student at the University of Leiden in Holland, changed his name to the Latin version. In Latin, Schultheiss translates to the word praetor, which means a Roman magistrate, a Roman commander, a Roman guardian. From praetor came Pretorius. This wasn't just a family of farmers. This was a bloodline of guardians, Romanized, enshrined in empire. And right before they set foot in South Africa, they took the title of a Roman commander, almost as if they were sent here to guard something, to oversee a city that was far older than their arrival. A city that, on the ancient maps, was already here. Coincidence? Or was Mr. Pretorius a true Roman, with his sights set on a real treasure? But the maps aren't the only records of Monomotapa. The Portuguese wrote of it. They feared it. A powerful king ruling vast territories, with regional chiefs under his command. Trade routes running along the Zambezi, connecting countless gold mines in the interior. They wrote of armies, legions, and cities. Rumors of Solomon's gold deep in the interior were the driving force behind Portuguese persistence. Multiple attempts to reach the interior were futile, as rebel tribes, disease, and unforgiving terrain were common. Until one day, they returned with a vengeance. Cannons that shook the ground, thunder in the form of gunpowder. Chiefs and emperors watched their fortifications crumble under fire from the sky. Clearly not the tools of peaceful traders, but invaders armed with explosions. And yet, the empire never fully yielded. Resistance flared, ambassadors were killed, and by the late 1600s, the Portuguese were driven out. The scars of craters around the Gauteng province hint at catastrophe, war, and a reset, a cleansing event, maybe natural, maybe not, but something powerful enough to wipe out an empire and bury it beneath our feet. And then, in the 1700s, something strange happens. European cartographers begin redrawing the empire. They release maps that show its capital in a new location, over 1,000 kilometers north, pinning it to the Zambezi River. They continue drawing maps that make the empire look smaller, fainter, pushed off to the side. Suddenly, an empire that once dominated southern Africa is now just a footnote in Zimbabwe, a deliberate relocation, a historical sleight of hand to erase the old narrative and make way for a new one. But we remember the lost city of Monomotapa, according to the ancient maps, is today's administrative capital, the city of Pretoria. Think about it. By the time Mr. Pretorius arrives, the maps have already been altered. The empire has already been erased. Now Pretoria is founded. And then come the Freemasons, sent to solidify the new story, to repurpose old world ruins into colonial architecture, to lock away the memory of Monomotapa. Look closer and you'll see the truth. Not in the ground, but standing right in front of you. Pretoria is full of buildings that don't make sense. Timelines that don't add up. Construction projects far too advanced for the small populations and primitive tools of the time. It's the same pattern we see worldwide, a new story painted over an older, greater one. Take the Union buildings. We're told they were completed in 1913, supposedly with ox-drawn carts, hammers, chisels, and a city population smaller than a modern village. Yet the scale is colossal, Roman in its ambition, perfect symmetry. Stone terraces carved and fitted with precision, clearly built to last 1,000 years. Yet the scaffolding used during its supposed construction looks like sticks tied together with string. It makes no sense. Clearly a staged photograph. Then there's the old Rodsaal, 24 months to build in 1889, when Pretoria had roughly 6,000 people living there, and yet it rises like a palace from a European capital. Massive Corinthian columns, ornate pediments. Who paid for this? Who built it? And with what tools? There were no local hardware stores in 1889. No power tools. Another anomaly. All the doors and windows for the entire building were apparently made in Scotland and shipped over to South Africa in 1889. Sounds believable. Then the doors and windows were sent up from Durban to Newcastle on a train, and then from Newcastle to Pretoria on horse and wagon. Do you actually believe that all of these materials were transported over 250 kilometers by horse and wagon in 1889? It's a lie. The building shows signs of sacred geometry in the architecture, clear signs of it coming from the old world. Next we have the Palace of Justice, built in 1897, we're told, less than 6,000 people living in Pretoria. Stonework cut and shaped with perfection, resembling classical Roman design. The same Pretoria that supposedly had no industry, no infrastructure, no advanced machinery, but somehow it produced a building that looks as if it was transplanted straight from ancient Europe. Doors and windows that appear to be halfway underground. Clear evidence of a mudflood or catastrophe that wiped out the previous empire. In 1883, right after fighting a war with England, we get the Dutch Reformed Church constructed with less than 3,000 people living in Pretoria. And as usual, it's not the first church building on this piece of land. There was an earlier church building here that was destroyed by fire. I think our viewers know our thoughts around structures that were destroyed by fire, as we've spoken about them at length in our videos. There was no previous structure destroyed by fire. This was the only structure, and in my opinion it was found, and then they faked a fire and faked its destruction, claimed from insurance, and claimed to have built a new one. Found, repurposed, and rewritten into the new colonial narrative. I also find it strange that they apparently constructed this stone church, but they hadn't figured out how to build roads yet. Just sand and mud surrounding the building. They also hadn't figured out how to build a wall yet, as they seem to be using sticks and wire as a perimeter fence. Very strange indeed. The tower looks like an ancient airship docking station. Holes to capture the nose of an incoming dirigible. A balcony to onboard and offboard passengers. Hints at ancient air travel using balloons and airships. A very beautiful building. Sadly, it was demolished in 1905. 22 years is all it took for us to destroy it after finding it. One of the ancient structures seen on the oldest maps of Africa. Lost forever. Even Church Square itself makes no sense. Surrounded by monumental architecture, all built within a few short years, as if the city just sprang into existence overnight. The story goes that these were just ambitious colonial projects. But the timelines, the manpower, and the technology don't add up, not even close. And Pretoria isn't alone. Across South Africa, in Cape Town, in Bloemfontein, in Johannesburg, the pattern repeats. Enormous churches, castles, and civic buildings, supposedly built by small pioneer communities with little more than horse wagons and hand tools. No, these weren't built from scratch. They were inherited, found, repurposed, and rewritten into the colonial narrative. That's why the timelines feel impossible. That's why the architecture looks Roman. That's why nobody is building them today, because these are not colonial buildings. They are the surviving fragments of a forgotten past. Today, Monomotapa is dismissed as myth, a tribal legend, but the maps say otherwise. The Portuguese records say otherwise. The ruins, the impossible buildings, the Roman echoes in names like Pretoria and Centurion, all say otherwise. This wasn't a small kingdom. This wasn't a mistake. It was an empire, hidden in plain sight. An empire whose memory, if restored, could rewrite everything we know about history, about empires, about Africa's role in the ancient world. The empire of Monomotapa did not vanish. It was buried. And the day is coming when its true history will rise again. If you enjoyed this video and want to dive even deeper, join our private Facebook group through a channel subscription. It's only $4 a month, $80 if you're South African. As a subscriber, you'll get access to videos similar to this one, behind-the-scenes content, and recognition as part of the Anomaly Africa community. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the inside.